Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real quick. Life doesn't reward the loudest mouths, the ones who act on every little insult, or the ones who rush to react. There's power in patience, there's power in silence, and there's an untouchable strength in mastering yourself before you respond to the world. Today, I want to talk about a rule so simple, yet so overlooked. Never react first. When you practice this, you build a kind of armor that no argument, no challenge, and no negativity can pierce. It's not about weakness, it's about strategy. It's about understanding that your energy is your currency, and giving it away carelessly is a luxury you can't afford. Let's break it down. Every time we step into the world, we're met with 1,000 little sparks trying to ignite our energy. Somebody says something disrespectful on the street, someone throws shade online, someone undermines your work, and every instinct in your body tells you to react, to defend, to strike back. But what most people don't understand is this: reacting first is giving away your power. Every time you let the outside world dictate your emotions, every time you jump at the bait, you're signing over control of your life to someone else. That energy, that fire, that focus that belongs to you, it becomes theirs to spend. And what we don't realize is that energy is currency. And in this world, if you spend it recklessly, you're bankrupt before you even start. I remember a young entrepreneur I knew, grinding in an industry that moves faster than most people can keep up with. Every time someone criticized him, he felt like he had to respond immediately. If a competitor said something about his product, he was quick to defend. If a client questioned his method, he had to justify. He was living on edge, constantly reactive, constantly chasing opinions that didn't even matter in the long run. It drained him. It kept him up at night. It stole focus from the very thing that could make him successful: his craft, his vision, his growth. He didn't even realize it at first, but every reaction was a tiny surrender, and they added up to a life that felt more chaotic than empowering. Then one day he started pausing. He took a breath before he responded. He asked himself, is this worth my energy? Does this move me closer to my goals, or is it just feeding someone else's agenda? That pause changed everything. Suddenly, he wasn't reacting, he was responding. His decisions became sharper, his vision clearer. He started winning without confrontation. People around him started noticing the shift, not because he was louder, not because he was faster, but because he wasn't giving them the power to shake him. That's the difference between reacting first and holding your energy. One choice drains you, the other builds you. It's the same in everyday life. I see it all the time in relationships, in workplaces, even in traffic. Somebody cuts you off on the freeway and your first instinct is to flip them off, curse them out, make them feel the way you feel. But in that moment, your energy is already spent. You're giving away power to a stranger whose life you'll never touch again. But if you pause, breathe, and let it slide, you keep your peace intact. You keep your energy. That small pause isn't weakness. It's a decision to win in the long game. The truth is, most people operate on impulse. They feel hurt, they feel disrespected, they feel threatened, and they react immediately. And it costs them. It costs them relationships, opportunities, credibility, and respect. But when you master the art of not reacting first, something magical happens. You take the wheel of your life again. You're no longer a passenger in a world trying to manipulate your emotions. You're the driver. You get to decide where your energy goes, when your voice is heard, and when silence speaks louder than words ever could. I've seen people transform by simply understanding this rule. A woman I knew worked in a high-pressure corporate environment. Her team often threw her under the bus to protect their own positions. At first, she reacted. She argued, she defended, she even cried sometimes. But she quickly realized it was exhausting her, keeping her from doing the work that mattered most. She started practicing restraint. Instead of reacting immediately, she would take notes, observe, and wait until the right moment. And when she did respond, it wasn't with anger. It was with strategy, precision, and authority. That one change made her untouchable in her environment. Her energy stayed intact, her respect grew, and she became a force that others couldn't manipulate. Reacting first also blinds you to the bigger picture. When you respond impulsively, you're focused only on the immediate hit, the immediate satisfaction. You miss the long game. You miss opportunities to learn, to adapt, to rise above. Life isn't about winning every small battle. It's about winning the war over your own mind, your own focus, and your own destiny. Every time you pause before reacting, you're building the discipline to see further than the moment, to operate on a higher level, and to take control of the narrative instead of letting the narrative control you. Think about the times in your life when you reacted first. Maybe it was a fight with a loved one, a misunderstanding at work, or a disagreement with a friend. Maybe it was online, where every comment can feel like a war zone. How often did that reaction bring you closer to your goal or elevate your situation? Most of the time it didn't. Most of the time it fueled more tension, more conflict, and more stress. Now think about the moments when you held back, when you observed, when you let things settle. Chances are those moments brought clarity. Those moments allowed you to make decisions from strength, not emotion. That's the difference. That's where power lives. The truth is, life will always test you. People will always try to provoke, to challenge, to shake you. It's unavoidable, but your reaction, that's your choice. You can give away your power in a flash, or you can hold it, protect it, and use it when it matters most. And when you learn to do that consistently, you become untouchable. You move through the world in a way that people notice, even if they don't fully understand. You gain respect, not through force, but through discipline. You gain influence, not through shouting, but through the control of your own energy. Every successful person I know understands this rule. Every leader, every visionary, every person who built something lasting knows that reacting first is a trap. It's easy, it feels natural, but it's a trap. The real work is in restraint. The real work is in patience. The real work is in mastering yourself so that when the world tries to knock you off your path, it bounces off instead. That's how you create a life that can't be shaken by minor battles, petty criticisms, or fleeting moments of disrespect. Your energy is sacred. Your time is precious. Every second you spend reacting impulsively is a second you're giving someone else control over your life. Don't let that happen. Pause, breathe, observe, wait. And when you move with power, precision, and purpose. That's how you win in life. That's how you rise above. That's how you become untouchable. Because once you embrace this, once you understand that reacting first is giving away your power, you'll see the world differently. You'll notice how many people are slaves to their impulses, and you'll see the freedom that comes from holding your ground. You start making moves that matter, building relationships that elevate, and creating a life that reflects the strength within you. Remember, your reaction is your choice. Your energy is your currency. Don't spend it on people who don't deserve it. Protect it, guard it, use it wisely. That's the real power, the kind that can't be taken, bought, or stolen. That's the kind of power that changes everything. Life will always test you. It will push you to the edge, try to get a rise out of you, make you feel like you need to respond immediately. But the truth is, the greatest strength isn't in the first reaction. It's in the pause, the breath, the space you give yourself to truly see what's in front of you. Observing before acting isn't just about patience, it's about clarity. It's about understanding the game and knowing where to place your energy so it counts the most. Every time you rush, you risk missing the bigger picture. Every time you step back, you give yourself the gift of awareness. I remember a young man from my neighborhood always moving fast, always trying to prove himself. If someone said something wrong, he was first to respond. If someone disrespected him, he immediately struck back. But life has a way of teaching lessons, and he found himself constantly frustrated, exhausted, and misunderstood. One day a mentor told him, step back, look before you move. Don't let the moment control your mind. At first it didn't make sense. How could you ignore what's right in front of you? How could silence be stronger than words? But over time he realized that observing first gave him power. It gave him vision. It gave him control over situations that used to control him. Think about how most people live. They operate in reaction mode. Traffic cuts them off and they're angry. A coworker questions their work and they're defensive. A friend says something hurtful and they lash out. Every instant, energy is spent. Every instant, your mind becomes clouded. But when you pause and observe, you start to notice things others miss. You start to understand motives, patterns, and the real dynamics at play. You see who's bluffing, who's sincere, who's testing you, and who's genuinely in your corner. That clarity is priceless because it allows you to act with purpose rather than impulse. Data confirms this too. Studies on emotional intelligence consistently show that people who pause before reacting are not just calmer, they're more strategic. They navigate conflict with precision, make decisions that have long-term impact, and avoid mistakes made in the heat of emotion. It's not luck, it's discipline. It's the ability to step outside the immediate chaos and view the situation from a higher perspective. That higher perspective is where leaders operate. That higher perspective is where opportunities become visible that were hidden to others who were too busy reacting. Even in the smallest moments, this clarity matters. Imagine being in traffic and someone cuts you off. The average reaction is anger. Horn blares, middle finger rises, words are shouted, the energy is spent, the stress is real, and it lingers. But the person who observes first, who pauses, can notice maybe that driver is rushing to an emergency. Maybe they're distracted. Maybe they're struggling. That pause doesn't just protect your mind. It protects your day. It keeps your energy intact. It keeps you in control. That's a microcosm of life. It's the same in work, in family, in friendships. React first and you lose control. Observe first and you gain power. Observing also helps you understand timing. Many of us have felt the regret of acting too soon, saying the wrong thing, or making a move before the right moment. Life isn't about speed, it's about precision. It's about knowing when to speak, when to act, and when to stay quiet. The most successful people I've seen aren't necessarily the loudest. They're the ones who know when to wait. They watch, they study, they learn. And when they move, it lands with impact. Their words carry weight, their actions shift outcomes, and that all starts with observation. I remember a friend who owned a small business. Every time a customer complained online, the first instinct was to fire back, but he started practicing observation first. He read the tone, understood the situation, and then responded carefully, turning potential conflict into loyalty. The people who tried to bait him ended up being the ones most impressed by his calm approach. By observing, he gained insight others missed. By observing, he preserved relationships instead of burning bridges. By observing, he maintained his peace and grew his business simultaneously. That's what clarity brings. You see beyond the surface and make moves that matter. Observing also helps you understand yourself. Every time you pause before reacting, you learn about your own triggers, your own patterns, and the areas where you still have growth to do. Emotional discipline isn't just about managing the outside world, it's about mastering yourself. The person who reacts first is often a slave to emotion, a prisoner of circumstance. The person who observes first is free to choose the outcome, free to protect their energy, free to operate from wisdom instead of impulse. Freedom isn't given, it's earned through practice, and observation is one of the key tools. You'll notice that life rewards the patient, those who understand that every interaction, every situation is a chance to gather information and act strategically. Reacting first might give you a temporary sense of satisfaction, but it doesn't build lasting success. Observing first builds a foundation for influence, trust, and respect. People notice the difference between someone who reacts emotionally and someone who moves deliberately. The latter becomes a natural leader, someone people follow without even being told why. Even in moments of high tension, clarity through observation works. Picture a heated argument, a business negotiation, or a family dispute. Most people want to jump in, defend themselves, or prove a point, but the one who observes first notices the underlying needs, the unspoken fears, and the true motivations behind the words. That clarity allows them to respond in a way that de-escalates conflict, finds solutions, and strengthens connection. That's real power, the power to understand, to act wisely, and to shape outcomes in your favor. Observation also protects you from manipulation. In a world full of noise, false narratives, and hidden agendas, people who react first are easy targets. They get pulled into drama, exploited, and distracted from their goals, but the observer sees the patterns. They recognize when someone is trying to provoke, when someone is testing limits, and when it's just a distraction. Observation keeps your focus sharp. Observation keeps your energy safe. Observation allows you to play the long game while others are caught up in the short-term battles. And the more you practice it, the more natural it becomes. You start to notice when someone is upset, not because they told you, but because you've trained yourself to see it. You begin to understand situations before they unfold, and your moves become intentional rather than reactive. That intentionality changes everything. It changes your relationships, your career, your peace of mind, and your trajectory in life. Observation before action is the quiet art of winning without making noise. Life will always try to pull you into reaction mode, but the people who master observation first rise above it. They stay grounded, they stay focused, and they stay undefeated by circumstances that derail everyone else. The clarity that comes from observing before acting is like a shield and a sword at the same time. It protects you from chaos and gives you the ability to strike with precision when the moment is right. So every time you feel the impulse to respond, take a breath, step back, look at the situation from all angles, listen to the words, read the intentions, and pay attention to the energy. Then, and only then, decide your move. That practice will transform your life. It will protect your peace, enhance your decision making, and give you the clarity to navigate a world full of chaos with a calm and focused mind. Observation before action is more than a strategy, it's a way of life, a key to power, and the difference between living controlled by circumstances and living as the architect of your destiny. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned, and one of the most overlooked ways to earn respect is through patience. People tend to confuse reaction with strength, but the truth is, anyone can react. Anyone can lash out when they feel wronged. Anyone can shout louder or respond faster. But patience requires discipline. Patience requires understanding that the world doesn't owe you immediate recognition or immediate justice. Patience is a quiet, unshakable power that people recognize instinctively, even if they don't fully understand it. I've seen it countless times in life. There are people who feel the need to respond to every slight, to defend every opinion, to argue every point. And while they might feel justified, others often perceive it as weakness. They see someone who's easily swayed by emotion, someone who needs to prove themselves constantly. It doesn't matter if they are technically right. The way they present themselves diminishes their authority. The voice of reason, the person who can hold their ground without proving themselves every second, that's the voice people naturally gravitate toward. That's the energy that commands respect. Think about leaders throughout history. The ones we remember, the ones whose names carry weight long after their time, weren't constantly reacting. They weren't the loudest in every argument or the fastest to defend their ego. They observed. They analyzed. They chose their battles. When conflict arose, they didn't respond impulsively. They responded strategically. Abraham Lincoln faced criticism constantly from his own party, from the public, from opposing leaders. And yet, he didn't let every jab dictate his actions. He chose patience, understanding that his decisions had to be measured and deliberate. That patience built respect, inspired loyalty, and ultimately allowed him to lead a nation through its darkest times. The same principle applies to your life, even in ways that feel small at first. In your workplace, there's always someone trying to assert dominance, to pull you into drama, to test your limits. If you react, immediately you're playing by their rules. You're validating their attempt to control the situation. But if you hold your ground, if you choose when and how to respond, people notice. They see your composure, your strength, your unwillingness to be shaken by every provocation. That kind of energy naturally earns respect. You become someone others look to for guidance, someone whose word carries weight because it comes from a place of intentionality, not reaction. I remember a friend of mine in the music industry. He was constantly in situations where criticism came from all directions. Fans, peers, critics, even people close to him. Early in his career, he felt compelled to answer everything, to explain himself, to defend every choice. And the more he reacted, the more it seemed like people were testing him, pushing him, trying to see how far they could go before he cracked. Eventually, he realized the real power wasn't in answering every challenge. It was in holding his energy and letting others' words float past without needing a response. That shift changed everything. People began respecting him more, trusting him more, and valuing his presence because he wasn't a slave to impulse. He became unshakable. Patience isn't passive. It's not doing nothing. It's active control. It's choosing when to engage, when to speak, when to move. It's about understanding that respect is a long-term investment, not something you earn in a single argument or instant confrontation. Every time you demonstrate patience, you send a signal. I'm in control. I'm grounded. I don't need to prove myself constantly to anyone. That signal resonates louder than words ever could. People recognize it, even subconsciously, and it changes the way they treat you. Even in everyday life, patience builds respect. In relationships, when disagreements arise, reacting impulsively often leads to damage that can't easily be repaired. But taking a step back, listening fully, and choosing your words carefully conveys maturity and thoughtfulness. In friendships, patience shows that you value understanding over ego, that you prioritize connection over winning argument. In professional settings, it communicates confidence, reliability, and the ability to handle pressure without crumbling. Across every aspect of life, patience signals strength. It shows that you're not reacting to the moment, you're moving with foresight. Respect also grows when patience is paired with consistency. People respect those who don't flip-flop, who don't swing with every change of circumstance, who maintain their composure no matter the storm. Consistently demonstrating patience in tough moments creates a reputation. People begin to recognize a pattern of strength and wisdom. That reputation becomes your shield, protecting you from unnecessary conflict and allowing you to focus on the things that truly matter. Leaders aren't those who fight every battle. They're those whose measured responses inspire trust and confidence. It's important to remember that patience is tested most when it's hardest to maintain. When someone insults you, when someone undermines your work, when circumstances are chaotic, your instinct is to react immediately. That's natural, but natural doesn't always equal wise. The moment you override instinct with discipline, the moment you pause and choose your response, you are creating respect not only in the eyes of others, but within yourself. You're teaching yourself that you're bigger than the circumstances, stronger than the provocations, and capable of holding your own integrity no matter what happens around you. There's also a psychological element to patience. Studies in behavioral science show that people who can delay immediate reactions tend to be more successful in achieving long-term goals. Their ability to navigate difficult conversations, resolve conflicts calmly, and maintain emotional composure sets them apart. The world may reward those who react quickly in the short term, but those who master patience are the ones who create lasting influence, build lasting relationships, and achieve lasting success. That's respect that stands the test of time. And even in situations that feel trivial, the effect is real. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Most people react instinctively, letting anger and frustration take over. But the person who practices patience observes, evaluates, and decides their action. They might let it slide, avoid the conflict, and maintain peace of mind. That small decision is a reflection of strength. It's a microcosm of how life rewards those who don't react impulsively, who maintain dignity, composure, and control, even in minor battles. That kind of energy carries over into every interaction, every opportunity, every challenge. Patience also communicates confidence without needing words. When you don't react first, when you hold your ground and wait for the right moment to act, people notice. They see that you are unshakable. They see that you operate from a place of awareness, not impulse. They see that you understand the bigger picture and have the discipline to navigate it, and respect naturally follows. People respect strength they can't shake, wisdom they can't question, and composure they can't provide. In your personal life, professional life, in every environment you enter, patience builds respect by showing that you are larger than the moment, by choosing your battles carefully, by controlling your reactions, by responding with intention instead of instinct. You create a presence that people can't ignore. You become someone whose opinion is valued, whose guidance is sought, and whose character is admired. You don't have to fight for respect. It comes naturally because your actions consistently demonstrate strength, self-control, and awareness. Patience is more than just waiting. It's a disciplined strength that speaks volumes without a single word. It's the quiet confidence that tells the world you are steady, reliable, and unshakable. It's the power to navigate challenges, criticism, and chaos without compromising your integrity. People notice that power. People respect that power. And in a world full of people quick to react, the person who masters patience stands out. They inspire loyalty, command attention, and leave a legacy that extends far beyond fleeting arguments or instant gratification. So when life tests you, when people try to provoke, when circumstances threaten to push you off balance, remember this: patience builds respect. Your calmness in chaos tells the world and yourself that you are unshakable. You don't need to prove yourself to every voice that challenges you. You choose when to act, when to speak, when to move. That deliberate restraint is the foundation of respect, the pathway to influence, and the mark of a life lived with wisdom and purpose. Silence is one of the most misunderstood tools in life. People think that to prove strength, you have to speak up first, argue louder, or defend yourself at every turn. But the truth is, silence is a strategy that communicates far more than words ever could. Silence carries weight because it shows control. It shows that you are not moved by every slight, that you are operating from a place of power, not reaction. Silence makes people think before they act. Silence gives you the room to observe, to calculate, and to respond on your own terms. In a world full of noise, silence is your edge, your weapon, your shield. I know someone who started a small business online, selling products in a crowded market. From the very beginning, he faced criticism. People questioned his pricing, mocked his approach, and even tried to undermine his reputation on social media. At first, it would have been easy to lash out, to defend himself, to prove that he was right, but he realized that responding to every negative comment would take his focus away from the work that truly mattered, building value, serving customers, and growing his business. So he chose silence. He didn't let the negativity steal his energy or dictate his actions. He stayed focused on creating, on improving, on delivering. 6 months later, the same critics who tried to pull him down had faded into the background. His reputation had grown. His influence had multiplied. Silence had become a tool that produced results. Silence had built legacy. When you practice silence strategically, people start to notice. There's a magnetic quality to someone who doesn't react impulsively. When someone throws shade, when a coworker tries to provoke, when a competitor attempts to bait you, staying silent communicates confidence. It communicates that you are above the immediate chaos. It communicates that your energy is too valuable to waste on trivial disputes. People can sense that strength even if you don't say a word. Your silence becomes louder than any argument, more powerful than any retort. It commands respect without ever asking for it. Silence also allows you to protect your mental space. Every reaction we make carries energy, and energy is finite. When you react impulsively, you are giving part of your life away. You are letting someone else dictate your emotional state. But when you remain silent, you are in control. You are choosing where your energy goes, what battles are worth fighting, and which moments require your voice. It's not passive, it's active, it's deliberate. It's choosing strength over ego. It's choosing growth over temporary satisfaction. The power of silence extends beyond business or public perception. It's a tool for personal relationships as well. In moments of tension with family, friends, or partners, silence gives you the ability to listen and understand before you respond. It gives you the chance to process emotions, to evaluate motives, and to respond with clarity instead of in many conflicts that escalate could be resolved or at least diffused if only one person practiced the discipline and remained silent long enough to think. Silence is a pause that allows wisdom to catch up with emotion. Silence can also prevent mistakes that come from impulsive reactions. In heated arguments, people often say things they regret, sometimes permanently damaging relationships or reputations. By choosing silence, you create space for reflection. You create the opportunity to respond in a way that preserves your integrity and aligns with your long-term goals. Silence is not avoidance, it's strategy. It's taking control of the moment rather than letting the moment control you. I've seen this principle play out countless times in leadership. Leaders who respond to every attack or every criticism often find themselves trapped in cycles of conflict, defending themselves constantly and losing focus on the bigger mission. But leaders who understand the power of silence are able to maintain composure, observe, and respond only when it truly matters. Their silence communicates authority and confidence. People trust leaders who speak when it counters, not leaders who speak just to be heard. Silence becomes their signature. Silence becomes their influence. Silence becomes their legacy. Even in everyday life, silence is powerful. Imagine a friend spreads gossip or tries to manipulate a situation. Many people feel the need to defend themselves immediately, to set the record straight, but by remaining silent, you deny the gossip power. You allow your actions to speak for you. Over time, people notice the truth not in your explanations, but in your consistency, in your integrity, in the way you live your life. The silence becomes louder than words because it is backed by authenticity and results. Silence also teaches restraint, which is a mark of maturity. A person who reacts to every insult is ruled by ego, by emotion, by impulse. But someone who practices silence exercises control over themselves. They understand that not every situation requires a response. They understand that power often lies in withholding their voice, in waiting for the right moment, in conserving energy for the battles that truly matter. That restraint earns respect. It earns influence. It earns freedom. Because when you are not a slave to every provocation, you become untouchable in ways people around you can feel, but cannot replicate. The greatest outcomes often come from those who understand that silence is not absence, it's presence. Presence of mind, presence of strategy, presence of vision. People may confuse quiet for weakness, but those who remain silent and deliberate are building something far greater: credibility, influence, and respect that cannot be bought or forced. Silence allows you to observe, to calculate, to act with purpose, and to create outcomes that speak louder than any argument ever could. I remember another story of an entrepreneur facing heavy criticism from competitors trying to discredit him in the market. Instead of reacting on social media, he stayed focused on building value, improving his products, and serving his customers. Over time, his business grew stronger, and those who had tried to diminish him became irrelevant. His silence wasn't passive. It was a strategy. He protected his energy, allowed him to focus on what mattered, and ultimately turned potential distractions into fuel for growth. That's the power of silence. That's the power of strategy. That's the power of patience backed by action. Silence also forces others to think. When you don't react immediately, when you let people hang in the tension for a moment, they are forced to consider their own actions, their own words, their own motives. Silence creates space for reflection, not just for you, but for others. It makes people aware that your energy is deliberate, that your time is valuable, that you are not easily shaken. And in a world where everyone is quick to argue, quick to react, quick to push, that kind of control is rare and respected. Every great achievement, every lasting influence, every respected leader understands the value of silence. Silence is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the art of maintaining power, preserving energy, and letting results speak for themselves. Silence allows you to navigate life without unnecessary conflict, to build influence quietly but effectively, and to create a legacy that lasts longer than any momentary argument. The people who master silence are the people who rise above the noise, who act with clarity, and whose actions leave a mark that words alone could never create. When you practice silence as a strategy, you realize that your voice is most powerful when paired with action. You become deliberate, you become unshakable, you become respected. And over time, your silence transforms from a simple choice into a powerful presence. People learn to measure their words around you. They learn to value your attention, and they learn that your energy is not to be wasted. That is influence. That is strategy. That is power. Silence isn't empty. Silence isn't passive. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is the armor that shields you, the weapon that protects you, and the strategy that allows you to move through life with focus, purpose, and authority. When you master the art of silence, you discover that sometimes the most impactful move is no move at all, and the results speak louder than any reaction ever could. Life will constantly put you in situations where every instinct tells you to strike first, to defend yourself, to react in the heat of the moment. People will say things to provoke you, circumstances will try to push you off balance, and the world will challenge your focus and your peace. Every single day. Most people respond immediately, and in that moment they give away pieces of themselves, energy, clarity, and control. But when you learn to react last, when you master the art of waiting and observing before you move, you reach a level of untouchable strength that most people will never understand. It's not about avoiding conflict, it's about stepping into it from a place of power, not impulsive emotion. I remember a young man who worked in a high-pressure corporate environment. Early in his career, he felt compelled to respond to every criticism, every question, every slight. If a colleague questioned his decision, he immediately defended it. If a client expressed doubt, he jumped to explain himself. And while it felt right in the moment, he realized that he was exhausted, stressed, and constantly reactive. Nothing he did seemed to stick because his energy was being spent on immediate battles, not long-term victories. Eventually, he decided to take a step back. He stopped reacting first. He allowed himself to observe, process, and respond only when it truly mattered. What happened next transformed not only his career, but the way people perceived him. He became untouchable. People began to respect his calmness, trust his judgment, and rely on his decision. His influence grew not because he spoke the most, but because he spoke with precision when the time was right. Think about it like chess. The player who moves first without calculation often falls into traps. They act on impulse, reacting to the immediate threat without understanding the bigger picture. They might win a small battle, but they lose the war. The player who waits, observes, calculates, and then makes a deliberate move, those are the players who dominate the board. Every move is intentional, every decision is strategic, and their influence is unstoppable. Life works the same way. When you refuse to react impulsively, when you wait and assess, you see opportunities others miss. You recognize patterns, motives, and outcomes that people who rush cannot. You act from strength, not emotion, and that's how you become untouchable. Negativity will always try to touch you, but when you operate from a place of patience and observation, it slides off. You'll encounter criticism, betrayal, gossip, and disappointment. Some people will attempt to provoke you, test your patience, and push your buttons. Most will succeed because they're meeting a reaction, not a strategy. But you, by choosing to react last, maintain control over your energy and your narrative. You decide the impact they have on you. You rise above their noise. You protect your peace. And that separation from reaction makes you untouchable. People can try, but they cannot shake you because your foundation is solid, deliberate, and self-control. I once knew an entrepreneur who faced relentless online negativity. Every day there were trolls, critics, and competitors attempting to diminish his progress. At first he felt the urge to respond, to defend, explain, and argue, but he quickly realized that each reaction drained him and distracted him from building his vision. Instead, he trained himself to react last. He focused on creating, improving, and delivering value consistently. He only addressed issues when it truly mattered. Over time, the constant attacks lost their power. He wasn't dragged into arguments or drama. His silence and careful, intentional responses elevated his influence and solidified his reputation. People noticed, respect grew, influence grew. He became untouchable, not because negativity disappeared, but because he learned how to navigate it without being consumed by it. Reacting last also teaches resilience. Life will throw tests at you. Some you see coming, some you don't. Friends, family, colleagues, competitors, and strangers will test your character, your patience, and your focus. If you react first, you're vulnerable. You're caught up in the storm, and your clarity is lost. But when you hold yourself, when you pause, when you choose the right moment to respond, you remain grounded. You absorb less damage and learn to manage pressure in a way that strengthens, not weakens you. Resilience comes from the ability to maintain composure, to respond strategically, and to protect your energy from unnecessary conflict. That resilience is part of being untouchable. Even in everyday life, reacting last has profound effects. When someone insults you, when a driver cuts you off, when a coworker challenges your decision, you have a choice. React immediately and risk being consumed by emotion, or observe, breathe, and respond when it matters. Reacting last allows you to maintain control over your mental state. It allows you to choose battles wisely, preserving your energy for what truly counts. It allows you to maintain dignity in situations where others lose it. Over time, this approach becomes a pattern. People recognize your calmness, your strength, your deliberate approach. That recognition is influence, and influence is a form of untouchability in itself. The people who are untouchable are not those who avoid life challenges. They are those who master the art of timing and restraint. They understand that reacting first often satisfies ego but accomplishes little. They understand that influence is built through observation, patience, and precise action. They understand that the energy you spend responding to negativity is energy you cannot spend building, creating, or elevating your life. When you react last, you align your actions with your long-term goals. You move deliberately through life rather than being pulled by every minor provocation. You operate from power instead of impulse. One of the most powerful aspects of reacting last is that it sets a standard for those around you. People learn quickly who you are and how you operate. They realize that you are not easily baited, that your energy is not theirs to manipulate, and that your focus is unwavering. That awareness shifts dynamics. It changes relationships. It transforms the way people interact with you. Your calmness becomes your authority. Your restraint becomes your influence. And that combination is the essence of being untouchable. Life will always offer distractions, insults, and attempts to provoke. That's guaranteed. But the choice of how to respond, whether to react first or last, is yours alone. Mastering the art of reacting last allows you to operate above the noise. It allows you to conserve energy, build influence, and protect your peace. It allows you to navigate the storms of life without being swept away. The world will keep testing you, but when you hold yourself, when you choose your moments, when you act deliberately, you create a space where negativity cannot touch you. That is the ultimate form of strength, freedom, and control. When you integrate this mindset into every aspect of your life, work, relationships, personal growth, you realize that being untouchable isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about engaging on your own terms, acting from strategy, and making moves that matter. It's about being deliberate with your energy, mindful with your actions, and intentional with your words. That discipline transforms not only the way the world sees you, but the way you see yourself. You become someone who navigates life with purpose, confidence, and unshakable focus. Reacting last turns life into a chessboard. Every move you make is calculated, intentional, and impactful. People will try to push, to provoke, to pull you into chaos, but you remain calm, you remain strategic, you remain untouchable. The power of reacting last is the power to rise above the noise, protect your peace, and build influence without sacrificing integrity. It is the ultimate practice of control, strength, and wisdom. So remember this rule. Never react first. Pause, observe, strategize. Let patience be your power, let silence be your weapon, and let your life be a testament to the strength that comes from control over your own actions. Your energy is sacred. Don't spend it on things that don't matter. Hold it, protect it, and when the time comes to act, act from power, not impulse. That's how you win life on your terms.